Hey everybody, my name is Neil Reynolds. I'm the Pathways Director for Kairos Church Planting and the Senior Minister at the University Church of Christ in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And if you're going to have an Easter to remember, there's one thing you have to think about. In fact, it's probably the most significant part of that Easter service, and that's your message. And you know what it's like to preach a message where you connect with the audience and you feel like they understand what it is you're teaching. You also know those days when you just don't connect, when you miss the mark. I remember a Sunday several years ago like that. On Sunday morning, I preached and I felt like I was really connecting. People were nodding their heads as I was speaking. I even noticed some people whose eyes were watering. They were moved to tears nearly. There was an emotional connection that I was making with the audience. And then just a few hours later, on that Sunday night, I spoke at a youth event. And as I was speaking, in the middle of the message, I knew it just wasn't connecting. I wanted to leave as soon as it was over, go to my car and not talk to anybody because I knew I had just missed the mark. And I don't want you to feel that way on Easter. So what I want to do is give you two simple things that you can do in your preparation to make it an Easter to remember for the guests who are at your church. Sometimes when we prepare to speak, we make two bad assumptions. The first assumption is this: we assume there are no guests. And we assume there's no guests, then we talk as if everybody knows what we're talking about. We make inside jokes. When we make announcements, we announce that the HRC group is meeting in the CVA next to room 233 at 3 this afternoon. And nobody knows what it is we're talking about because we're assuming that there's nobody new there. And so we make that first bad assumption. The second bad assumption we make is that everybody knows the Bible. And sometimes you're teaching from Scripture and you'll say something like this: everybody knows the story about Noah's Ark. And that's actually one of the worst things that you can say because you only run the risk of alienating the person who doesn't know the story. And so we assume that people know things about the Bible, and that's not a great assumption. So here are two better assumptions that you can make in order to connect with guests this Easter. The first assumption you need to make is that there are guests in the room. And so as you prepare, as you think about what you'll say, think about the person who's experiencing your church for the very first time. Just assume that there's someone there who's hearing your message for the first time. Maybe they're trying church for the first time in a long time, or maybe it's the first time in their lives. You need to assume that they don't know the things that you know. They don't know the things that people who are part of your church know. So make sure that you're sensitive to the fact that they're experiencing your church for the first time. And then a second better assumption to make is assume that they don't know a ton about the Bible. In fact, just assume they don't know anything. So when you teach a passage of Scripture and you ask the church to open to Matthew in their Bibles, you might say something like, if you don't have a Bible, that's okay. We're just really glad you're here. Or if you're talking about the Pharisees out of a passage in the Gospels, just explain to people what that is. These are really simple things that you can do to help a person who doesn't know what's going on kind of become clued in, and you can connect with them as a guest. And so this Easter, we don't want you to experience that feeling of walking off of the platform and feeling like, I just didn't connect with the guests who are here. We don't want you going home that night feeling discouraged. We want you to have that feeling of knowing I connected with the audience. And actually, I feel like there will be some guests who are here today who may even come back next Sunday. So we're praying for you, and we hope that this will be an Easter to remember for you.